All right, y'all. Welcome back to the show. It's Anti-War Radio. I'm Scott Horton. I'm talking with Pepe Escobar. He writes for the Asia Times. That's asiatimes.com. And he's got an article here that he could have written at any time in the last 6 years or so. The winner is Muqtada. About Muqtada.
I probably did this 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, this is the thing, is that the Bush crew, among the Shiite majority that America installed in power there, and you know, I kind of left out of my narrative there that Muqtada al-Sadr, yeah, he tried to fight with the Sunnis back in 2004, but he also helped the Badr brigades fight a horrible civil war against them in Baghdad in 2006, 2005, 6, and 7, really, and you know, the drills in people's heads and all that, that was, you know, at least some of his crew responsible for a lot of that. And it's now 85% Shiite city. But you're saying that the people of the Sunni population, more or less, of Iraq still considers him an Iraqi nationalist. I wonder, though, then, if that's right, why even deal with the traitor half of the Dawa party anyway? Why wouldn't Sadr just cut a deal with Alawi and make that nationalist, government of national salvation that he talked about 4 years ago?
Because Alawi is viewed by the Sadrists as a CIA agent, basically. You know, that's the short answer to your question.
And there are no other Sunni parties that he could make a deal with that have enough power or clout.
And they don't have enough votes to cut a majority. You know, it would have to be Sadr, Sunni parties, and the Kurds. And, you know, they're absolutely antagonistic on Mosul and Kirkuk, for instance. So the only possible alliance at the moment, the way the whole thing breaks down, would be Alawi and Maliki, or Maliki and Sadr. And that's what happened. You know, Alawi and Maliki, all the Shiite parties, all of them, except from Dawa, of course, Sisi, the Sadrists, they would go against it. The Kurds are not exactly happy with Alawi as well. So, you know, this is the only possible outcome considering the breakdown of parties in Iraq at the moment. It's extremely imperfect, and yes, the door is open for a civil war depending on which Sunnis will be aggregated to this majority, let's put it this way.
Something I learned in your article here, Pepe, is that the Sadrists now dominate not just the Iraqi National Alliance, but they actually dominate the Supreme Council for Islamic Revolution. Now that al-Hakim has died and they've had this, you know, shift in power there, he actually dominates Skiri now, whatever they call it, Iski.
Yes, but, Sisi, as it's called now, though, with the death of al-Hakim, basically it became a shrinking party, just like a communist in France or something like that, you know. So soon they're going to be a minority party compared to Dawa, which in fact it's not Dawa. It's the figure of Maliki himself that it's predominant, because he was in power for all these years. He consolidated his people in key ministries, in running the machinery of government.
Does Dawa prefer Sadr, or they're completely under the thumb of Maliki because of his power as prime minister?
Yes, absolutely. But, and the Sadrists, they want, I would not say a piece of the action, but they want some key ministries, and especially related to the interior. Because the interior ministry in Baghdad is still a mess. It's controlled by militias. We're not going to see the Sadrists taking care of the interior ministry, but at least it will be divided, split among different militias instead of only one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, in fact, this so-called democratic outcome that was more or less imposed by the White House years ago, this is what happened. It's a sort of balkanization of Iraq on a more or less Lebanese term forever. You always have at least 3 or 4 absolutely incompatible factions fighting among themselves. And you can have one election a week, and the outcome will always be like that, undecided, completely undecided. And we're not even talking about the Kurds, which have a completely different agenda. They want an independent Kurdistan. They will never abdicate from that. Never. And obviously, everything related to Kirkuk is suspended. The battle for Mosul is suspended. But all these things will be back. It's like the eternal return of the repressed in Iraq.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sure you're familiar with Sidney Blumenthal. He used to work for Bill Clinton, and his son Max Blumenthal does a lot of great journalism.
Yes,
and
sure.
He wrote a lot of pieces for Salon.com over the last decade, really detailing the split within the Republicans between the neocons and the oil men, realist types. And one of them has James Baker. When George Bush gave his speech that you have 48 hours to leave Iraq, but we're invading no matter what you do at this point. James Baker supposedly turned to his friend and said, I told him not to do that. And, apparently, the father's men were saying that this is what would happen. But I wonder, what was it that Cheney believed could happen there that would allow for America to have all these bases? Did he really believe Wolfowitz saying that, yes, this will we will be so powerful, we'll have our, as you say in here, our own OPEC, screw the Saudis, we'll put the price wherever we want it now, and we'll weaken Iran because we'll make such a democracy there that the people of Iran will want to rise up and have a democracy like us. I mean, Dick Cheney didn't believe these things, did he? So how did he think that he was going to get anything but one Muqtada al-Sadr or another saying that his only terms are that America leave? Which is what we have.
Obviously they didn't. First of all, they didn't learn the lessons from Vietnam. That's number one. Number two, they didn't know absolutely anything about the Middle East. And, you could have talked to, there are many CIA, National Intelligence Agency, State Department specialists on the Middle East. They speak Arabic. They know the region. They live there. They have local interlocutors. They would explain to you the extreme intricacy of Iraq post Saddam Hussein. And Saddam Hussein only lasted that long because he was the only one with his Stalinist methods to keep that volcano, relatively peaceful. Afterward, it's Pandora's box, and that's exactly what happened. But obviously, the neocons, Cheney, Wolfowitz, Pearl, they had no clue about the Middle East. And in fact, they were...
Well, but Dick Cheney was there with James Baker and them, and this was George Bush Sr.'s excuse when he was attacked by Wolfowitz and Scooter Libby back then, was, look, if we'd gone all the way to Baghdad, like you guys wanted, then who knows? Everything would have broken apart. You got Kurds in Syria, Kurds in Turkey, Kurds in Iran. You got a Shiite majority that's under the thumb of this minority dictatorship in the capital city. We don't want to turn all that upside down and have American soldiers bogged down in cities fighting a war like that. I mean, because they were on the defensive. Colin Powell in his autobiography, right? Like all of these guys. Dick Cheney, and they found the video, right, at AEI. It's on YouTube, of Dick Cheney in 1994 making his excuse for why they didn't go all the way to Baghdad. And it's exactly what you would have said. You're going, no, don't do that. It will be a disaster. So he did understand. But I don't know. I guess he just thought explosions are good enough to just, fire is good enough.
Well, I think we'll have to go back to our friends, the ancient Greeks. And once again, hubris. When you are in power and you are the most powerful vice president in the history of the U.S., you think you're invulnerable. And that's what they thought. Okay, we're going to send 100,000, 150,000. Their army is already shattered. We take over. We run Baghdad. We build 10 military bases. We give some crumbs to the Shiites. And we're going to run the place. And we're going to run the oil. This is exactly what they were thinking in 2002, all over 2000. I remember practically each day during the mounting up towards the war in 2002, they were releasing this on the Washington Post, New York Times, almost on a daily basis. And people were gobbling that up. Obviously, not
Max
France,
Boot wrote
Germany,
The Case for
China,
American
Russia.
Empire.
I'm sorry?
Max Boot wrote The Case for American Empire with no embarrassment whatsoever.
Exactly. But, but there was not a hint of realism in all that. Okay, maybe I'm extrapolating too much, but if they had a Henry Kissinger in the machinery of government, they would say, guys, go slow. First, let's examine our options. There's not one option. There's at least 3 or 4 anarchic options if this thing goes wrong.
Yeah.
So let's have this in mind before we go. But no, for them there was only one option.
Yeah.
It's real men go to Tehran. Do you remember? It's not even
right,
that.
Right, yeah. Junior told they did have a Kissinger. They had Brent Scowcroft, his father's best friend, and he told Scowcroft to go to hell.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Hey, we got to go, man. I'm all out of time. Thank you so much for your time. We need to do this more often, Pepe. I really appreciate
Always
it.
a pleasure, Scott. Whenever you want it.
Okay, everybody, that is the great Pepe Escobar. He writes at the Asia Times. This one's called, and the winner is Muqtada. Like you didn't already know that.